Welcome everybody. Welcome back to Climate Voters Tonight. We're going to give folks just 30 seconds to get situated in here. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to Climate Voters Tonight. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Well, welcome back, everybody. Welcome to Climate Voters Tonight. As always, I'm your host, Peter Schleisman, and we are so thrilled that you've joined us tonight as we cover the climate news you need to know. Tonight, we will be discussing Senator Tom Carper of Delaware and the current congressional map as we prepare for the exciting 2024 election cycle. Then we'll take a look at a segment focused on the water crisis in the Southwest. After that, we will recap a recent EDF Action event in Phoenix focused on electric school buses and local investments in clean energy. It's going to be an exciting program tonight. But before we dive into those segments, we'll turn to our top headlines and updates on some topics from past episodes. We've got a lot to cover, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, President Biden plans to veto a Congressional Review Act resolution that would roll back his administration's EPA standards for nitrogen oxide emissions from heavy-duty vehicles. We know that these standards are needed to protect communities from harmful pollutants. All right, you have an opportunity to make your voice heard on a recent EPA proposal on new standards for pollution emissions from heavy-duty vehicles. By taking action, you can help your community get cleaner, healthier, and safer. As you may remember from last episode, the EPA requests comments from the public as part of the process for finalizing new rules. Right now, the public comment period is open for the EPA's heavy-duty vehicles pollution rule until June 16th. Go to edfaction.org/clean trucks to submit your comment and tell the EPA to reduce pollution from trucks, rigs, and other heavy-duty vehicles. It only takes 1 minute with our easy digital tool. All right, EDF Action is planning a virtual event on June 22nd focused on the EPA's newly released rules limiting pollution from power plants. If you want to learn more about climate pollution from fossil fuel-fired power plants and how to give your input on these critical rules, please join us using the link in the comments. Here at EDF Action, we're taking time to look at the congressional map as we head into 2024. We're dedicated to ensuring we have a pro-climate majority in Congress and elect leaders that care about our planet and the health of our communities. That's why we took a deep dive into 8 swing districts in California. Here's what we found. Research to conduct this new poll of voters in swing districts in California. And fair warning, the results will shock you.
I don't believe you.
So let me break it down. You might be thinking, okay, well, California, that's a pretty progressive state when it comes to climate action, right? And yes, you are correct. Statewide, it has been a leader when it comes to climate legislation. But the state is not a monolith. Remember that Speaker Kevin McCarthy does represent one of its congressional districts.
Okay, that makes sense. Continue.
So we decided to take a closer look at how Californians feel about climate. Here's what we found. Statewide, 61% of voters believe that climate change is a crisis or a serious problem. That's a great number, but not particularly surprising. So here's where things get a little bit crazy.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm.
California has at least 8 swing districts up for grabs in 2024. Right now, the House majority is just 5 votes. That means California alone could decide who wins the House in 2024. And when I say swing districts, I'm talking like a seesaw with one rhino on this end and another rhino plus like a fly on the other. Basically, these elections are super close. So you might expect that voters in these districts wouldn't care quite so much about climate change. Not so. According to our poll, 72% of voters think climate change is at least a somewhat serious problem, with 53% saying it's either a crisis or a very serious problem.
Good.
53% of the voters in these swing districts think that climate change plays a major role in the flooding, wildfires, and extreme weather events we see so often in the state. Plus, 48% think that the federal government is doing too little to tackle the problem.
Wow. So to all the candidates getting ready to run in 2024, consider this your official warning. The numbers tell a pretty compelling story. Climate is a winning issue, and members of Congress better take it seriously because it could determine who controls the U.S. House. Climate leaders is retiring. Senator Tom Carper of Delaware isn't finished, though. The low-key but influential senator says he'll, quote, run through the tape, prioritizing implementation of the historic climate investments and pushing for an efficient and inclusive approval process for clean energy projects over his final 20 months in office. Then he hopes to pass the baton to Representative Lisa Blunt Rochester, another climate champion who is now in the House.
We love Lisa. And I spoke with her this morning. I said, you've been patient, waiting for me to get out of the way, and I'm going to get out of the way. And I hope you run, and I hope you'll let me support you in that mission. And she said, yes, I will let you support me. And so I'm going to.
Senator Carper is retiring after 4 terms. He is chair of the Environment and Public Works Committee, and his environmental legacy is a long one. In the 1990s, he was a key voice pushing to reduce the use of ozone-depleting hydrofluorocarbons through the Montreal Protocol. He also shepherded through landmark legislation to modernize the Toxic Substance Control Act, which helped to keep harmful chemicals out of our homes and away from our children. And he spearheaded legislation to make corporate polluters pay for leaking harmful methane pollution, moving us toward a clean energy future and improved air quality. We are so thankful for his commitment to saving lives, improving health, and healing the planet. And we are also excited to see what Representative Blunt Rochester does next. All right, moving on. The West is facing a water crisis with no end in sight. The Colorado River Basin, Lake Powell, and Lake Mead are key water resources, but for years, water levels have been severely declining. And even one good year of heavy rain and hearty snowpack like we had this year won't solve the crisis. That's because the water deficits have built up so much that we can't ignore the dire water supply concerns for over 40 million people. Yep, you heard that right. 40 million people, including farmers, families, and businesses, rely on the Colorado River to supply clean water. On May 22nd, a big breakthrough water sharing agreement between Arizona, California, and Nevada was unveiled by the White House. This is a critical first step to safeguarding the water resources the Colorado River Basin has to offer. It will ensure clean drinking water for 7 states, 40 million people, and countless farmers and small businesses. Make no mistake, the agreement is not bringing an end to the water crisis in the West. It will buy these states a little more time to prepare for a drier future. But the truth is, these states must work together to reduce the demand on the river while ensuring that our families, farmers, and businesses have the water that they need to thrive. There is a lot of work still left to be done. In the short term, we have to fully implement this agreement while also looking at options to reduce overall water consumption from the Colorado River Basin. And our solutions cannot be one-sided. They need to consider the needs of our communities, the farmers who grow our food, and the ecosystem that relies on these waterways. And that's where President Biden's Clean Energy Plan comes into play. It includes funding to help improve the health of the watershed and ensure a lasting supply of water resources for communities and farmers. But we also need to think big with long-term solutions that will ensure that our farmers can feed our communities and that our families have access to clean drinking water. This means that we need a comprehensive water management system that allows us to adapt to the extreme weather that is being felt, quite literally, all over the region. This means moving away from a piecemeal management strategy that goes from crisis to crisis and only focuses on short-term Band-Aid fixes that weaken our ecosystem and heighten the risk of fires. It is time to do more than merely survive. Let's focus our attention on working diligently and together to ensure that this water resource can be utilized for generations to come. Here at EDF Action, this is only the start of the conversation with you. We'll have many opportunities for you to get involved in this fight over the next several months and years. Together, we can conserve our water and ensure our farmers and families can thrive.
All right. Well, moving on. You may not guess it by looking at me today, but I was not a particularly athletic kid. My slap shot in hockey was less Happy Gilmore and more Charlie Brown. Not many of the pitches I threw in Little League made it over the plate. In fact, I'd wager most of them ended up hitting the batter. So when the day came in gym class to run the mile, I shuffled through just about every play in the book to get out of school. It never did work. And so every year I would huff and puff my way 4 times around the track and 12 minutes later arrive at the finish line, exhausted and ashamed, but unharmed. While I may not have enjoyed those late spring days embarrassing myself in front of all my friends, at least my lungs weren't working against me. Not everyone has that luxury.
With severe asthma all through elementary school, and I was in and out of the hospital for most of kindergarten, first and second grade.
Phoenix, Arizona suffers from some of the nation's most toxic air, according to data from the American Lung Association. Persistently high levels of particle and ozone pollution increase the risk that kids develop asthma, bronchitis, and other respiratory conditions, as well as anxiety and depression.
I've watched children over and over again have asthma attacks. I watched a little girl almost die from an asthma attack waiting for her school bus.
More days in the doctor's office or the hospital mean fewer in the classroom. The problem is particularly acute among Phoenix's communities of color who are more likely to live close to major highways, freight hubs, and high-traffic areas. Ironically, vehicles meant to shuttle our kids back and forth from their places of learning are a big part of the problem. Diesel exhaust from school buses is a significant contributor to the air pollution plaguing Phoenix and many other communities across the country. That's why this West Phoenix school district decided to apply for federal money to replace its dirty diesel buses with a safer option. On May 9th, we joined Dr. Mario Ventura, superintendent of Isaac School District in West Phoenix, and our partners at Moms Clean Air Force and Chispa, Arizona, to celebrate a $2.37 million grant from the Environmental Protection Agency's Clean School Bus Program. With this money, Isaac Schools will begin to swap its old diesel buses with new electric models.
We were very fortunate to receive this grant and for 6 electric buses, but we are applying, and we know this is very important. I do not know one superintendent that did not apply. In fact, they were kind of, there's a little bit of jealousy going on amongst all of us, like, why did you get it, not us? And we're going to ask for more. We will continue to advocate for these electric buses because we know how important it is for our community.
Isaac's 6 new electric buses join nearly 2,500 others nationwide funded by the EPA's Clean School Bus Program in 2022 alone, and the program will continue to run until 2026. That'll make a big dent in our goal of electrifying the nation's fleet of vehicles. Still, with about 480,000 school buses on our roads today, less than 1% of which are electric, we'll need all hands on deck to get it done. That's where you come in. Over the next few years, we need you to reach out to school districts in your area and make sure they apply for these clean school bus grants. Keep putting pressure on your elected officials at all levels of government by demanding continued funding for these vehicles, and make sure to thank them when they do the right thing. Together, we can create a healthier and cleaner future for our kids. All right, to all our viewers from all over the country, thank you so much for tuning in to Climate Voters tonight. Before we wrap up this episode, I'm excited to share an important update on our episode schedule. Beginning on June 22nd, we will be moving our live episode releases to Thursdays at 5:45 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. We'll drop the link in the comments for you to sign up for future episodes, but please make sure to join us on Thursdays going forward. We look forward to seeing you next time. As always, thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate it. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your Monday. Climate Voters Unite.